Why would someone want to stay suffering with tinnitus? We're going to unpack this very complicated psychological situation in where people become bonded with their trauma, their past trauma, their suffering. And when this happens, the victim will adopt the mindset as their identity. This is usually because they don't have an identity that is something that they've formulated themselves. Meaning most people's identities, they didn't choose. They were given to them against their will, right? So this identity could happen because when you're a kid, you're told, this is what an adult does, and don't act like that, and don't say that, and don't be like that, and you have to do this, and you have to make money. And when you're a kid, you get a little bit of playtime, right? Like when you're really young, they adults let you kind of do your thing, but then they start installing the matrix, right? So then they really start to beef up the propaganda to kids. Brush your teeth, do this. Not all of it's bad. I mean, you need to do some of it to function in society, but the majority of it's just opinions, right? Just like social norms. Like, don't make people feel bad about this, and don't do this, and don't do that. Depending on how you're raised, it can be really harsh. You can literally have very dogmatic and oftentimes violent, very, very violent things forced upon you. Like, growing up in my household, it was enforced with a belt. What to do and not to do, what to believe, what religion, deity to serve, stuff like that. Anyway, that's basically how the matrix gets installed. So like who people are, their identity isn't even often, they didn't choose it. They didn't choose to build an identity that they're proud of. It's just given to them, right? So they're like, I need to go be a finance pro because I live in a family that, every single Thanksgiving, they're talking down to people who aren't successful. So I have to be successful to impress my family. And what am I going to do if I show up to Thanksgiving and I didn't make enough money quarterly? And how am I going to express? Because my cousin made a bunch of money. And what if God forbid, what if I look bad in front of this person? And I need a nicer house and a nicer car and all that stuff. So you realize that most people aren't living for themselves. They're living for the identity that had been handed to them, that they didn't even choose. And so when you ask, here's the funny thing. When you ask yourself, who would I be if I chose to be anybody in the world? Who would I be? Like what matters to me? Where would I live? What would I do? I live in a hut. I sit on a hammock and I like to code and make videos. That's what I like to do. That's just me. I chose to do that. I could be anywhere in the world doing anything, and I'm doing this because it's peaceful. I'm happy. It's what I want to do. It's adventurous. I'm an adventurous person. So you have to understand that, like, when tinnitus comes on the scene, okay, and somebody suffers with it because they're told there's nothing we can do, it doesn't go away. People then begin to build an identity around their suffering, since clearly they don't have a solid identity outside of it. The suffering then becomes their identity. Especially if the longer you suffer, too, you tell people about it. I have tinnitus, and I blah, 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 this, and I can never recover, and I'm a victim. I'm a victim. Oh my God, my life sucks. But it's not my fault. It's the tinnitus' fault, right? Maybe you didn't start that business. Well, now you can't because you got tinnitus. I mean, who's going to have to, how do you start a business with it ringing in your ears? I mean, I did, but tons of people do. But, so how can you travel? Maybe you're already afraid of traveling, but then you get tinnitus. Well, now you have something to blame it on. Well, I can't travel because of tinnitus. Well, maybe you were kind of a shitty parent and you get tinnitus. Well, that explains it. Now I can't be a good parent because I have tinnitus. So every single thing that's gone wrong in someone's life, can't go to the gym, got tinnitus. What if someone slams a weight? Can't do that. Can't get back to living my dreams, got tinnitus. You see what I'm saying? And this suffering can play out just not alone in tinnitus, but in so many areas of people's lives, right? So the suffering then becomes a reason why people can't do anything. Instead of taking responsibility and saying, I'm fat because I can't control my eating. I'm a shitty parent because I don't do the work. I don't make an effort to invest in my kids' lives. I didn't start that business because I'm afraid of failing and people laughing at me. I'm afraid to travel because I've lived in a comfort zone. I let fear kick my ass my entire life, and I've never taken any accountability. I'm ashamed of my life because I've worked at a corporation that's literally kicked me in the face my entire life. And I'm just tolerated it, and I never stood up for myself. Instead of accepting responsibility for your life, they just outsource the blame on tinnitus or whatever else thing happens to them. You see these people in wheelchairs and stuff, and they never learn how to walk again. They never learn how to push themselves. Not all people like that, but I'm telling you, my mom is like this, man. Like, she made victim her identity. Well, you don't know what I went through. I've heard that 1,000 times. I don't know what she went through, but it sounds like you're still going through it. It sounds like the trauma ended and you're still replaying the stories in your freaking head. The pain lasted one moment, but the suffering lasted 40, 50 years. That's how it is with tinnitus. They get the pain, they get the suffering, then they suffer with the loop for the rest of their lives. They don't have to, but they choose to. Because here's what happens. So that's how they make suffering their identity. Jesus tackled this with the blind man in the Bible. So they make suffering their identity, and they don't want to let it go. Because to let it go means that you suffered for however long, and you didn't have to. That's why people don't like to get out of relationships that are bad. I invested 10 years into this relationship. I don't want to let go of it. What if people say, oh, your relationship failed? Well, who cares? You lived your life. You tried something. Does it really matter? I mean, if the relationship is not healthy, then leave it. It doesn't matter if it was 10 years or 10 minutes. The time is irrelevant. Are you not happy? No. Do you want to be the best version of yourself? Yes. Is this helping you? No. Well, then leave it. It's that simple. For me, it doesn't get emotional than that, but you see that with people. You see that their suffering becomes an identity, especially with tinnitus. They don't want to leave it because in order to leave it, they would have to accept that they suffered for 10 years without it. They didn't have to. I don't know what to tell you. And so then they attack people like me who come on the scene and straight up call them out and say, bro, you don't have to. It's your choice. It's optional. Yes, tinnitus suffering is optional. It's optional. It doesn't have to happen. You perpetuate it. That's an extremely controversial thing to say. Tinnitus suffering is optional. It is. It really is. There are steps you can do to get out of it. And I'm not going to downplay the severity of it. I've been the only person on here, I think, that has explained how severe it is and how severe mine was. And there is a time when you do suffer before you learn what to do, before you understand habituation and how to walk it out. And that suffering is inevitable. So what I'm talking about is the prolonged suffering and the rejection of help and the willful victim mentality. After people have tried to help you, you understand what the cure is, you know what to do and what not to do, and you still choose to attack people who are trying to help, and you still decide that the way that you want to do things is the way that you're going to do them. I don't have any sympathy for people like that. I just don't. Because they know what to do. People have tried to help them. That's like a drug addict, and everyone's trying to help him get clean, and every time he's around someone, he just rips someone off. He just decides to go back to drugs. He just decides to go back to drinking. He just decides that he is going to, no matter what happens, he is not going to change. And it comes down to a human decision. It really does. It comes down to a decision. Are you going to accept help and become better, or are you going to stay in your victim mindset? It comes down to a personal decision. And letting go of that identity, that victim identity, is scary. It's hard, but it's the way forward. So this video is for accountability. This video is for people who need to take some accountability for their lives. They need to hear the real deal. Anyway, if this resonates with you, smash the like button. I'll talk to you later. Peace.